Hello everyone, back tuning into today's video. We're going to have a look at the weather next week, 10 days for today's video. It's going to take us to around the 10th or the 11th of February. We're in some cold weather through the course of next week, and there could be some snow coming along as well. So quite a wintry outlook for today's week to 10 day weather forecast update. We'll also have CFSV2 at the end. Don't normally have that on a Thursday, but I thought I'd throw that in. See how long this colder weather could last for. Later on today, we've got Terry Scolder's February forecast, so that'll be coming up around 5 o'clock this evening, and then if I have time, around 7 o'clock, I'm going to try and update Snow Watch, more particularly for Saturday, but we will have a little bit of a look at next week as well. But to kick it all off today, we're going to have a look at weather for next week to 10 days. So we're going to begin actually with the stratosphere. So this is the temperature currently at 30 HPA over the North Pole. The grey line here is where we've been with stratospheric temperatures through this season, starting off in September. The black line shows where the temperatures have been through this season. So we can see that we went very cold with those stratospheric temperatures during the early part of January. That's where we currently are right now. Still a little bit colder than average at 30 HPA. Going a bit further up to 10 HPA. We have had a very modest warming, so we was quite cold about a week or so ago, but now we are back up to the grey line, back up to trend for the time of year. But the GFS is still showing the chance of a very significant southern stratospheric warming occurring around the middle of February. So this is the temperature forecast, latest temperature forecast from metroseo.fr from the GFS model for 10 HPA. These blue colours are where we've got those cold temperatures in the stratosphere. As I run you through, you'll see that very quickly those blue colours disappear. They're replaced by reds, yellows and oranges. By the time you get through to the 14th of February, you've got a very significant southern stratospheric warming event occurring there around the 13th, 14th of February over the North Pole at 10 HPA. That's one of the most significant midwinter southern stratospheric warming events that we've had for a long time, maybe since January 2013. Very significant event being forecast there. It's just a little bit outside the time frame of the ECM, so we'll know more with that in a couple of days' time. But certainly GFS is now consistently going for a very significant warming event of the stratosphere over the North Pole around the middle of February. We'll keep you updated about that. These are the 500 millibar height anomaly flow charts for the next week to 10 days. We've got the ECMDF here on the top, the GFS, which I'll have a look at in a moment. It's on the bottom, 500 millibars, 80,000 feet is an area in the active high pressure, low pressure, being moved around by a jet stream running above. Red extrapolates high pressure and blue to low pressure. So we see that the ECM is placing a ridge of high pressure through the central Atlantic and also a big blocking feature up over the north of Scandinavia and extending back into the Arctic. And then in between, we've got this area of below average heights, low pressure out to our northwest and also to our south. It's a messy picture, but it means we're on the cold side of the jet. The jet doing something like that, actually going a very, very long way south there. So not only is the UK being plunged into really cold conditions next week, but so is many central, western and southern parts of Europe as well. Have a look at the GFS. It's very similar. So again, we've got the below average heights just there. We've got more below average heights down here. Then we've got a ridge through the central Atlantic and also up here as well. And the jet stream is doing something like that, being placed onto the cold side of the jet stream in the 7 to 10 day time frame. Although eventually later on we may start to try at least to bring those westerlies back in, but certainly up to around day 7, day 8, it does look really very cold indeed in the stratosphere. It does look very cold indeed in terms of the temperatures that we've got on the surface. So these are the GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks. We're looking at Chelmsford in Essex today. The red line here is a 30-year upper air temperature average. We're cold on average at the moment, but we're going to be going colder later on in the weekend and through to next week, going down close to -10 at 850 HPA. That's bitterly cold air that we've got going on through the early part of next week. Then a slow lift up in the temperature takes place, but really still into the second week of February, this period just here, we're looking generally a little bit on the colder than average side, if anything. So really quite a cold outlook coming up over certainly the next week to 10 days, and maybe even extending a little bit beyond that. As far as precipitation is concerned, we've got the chance of some rain there on Saturday, or snow. We'll have a look at that in snow. I think down in the south, in Chelmsford, it will be mostly rain, but further north there could be some snow. And then these precipitation spikes just here through next week, some of those could be bringing the risk of snow as well. Temperatures on the surface are looking like this. So we've got 10 degrees just there and freezing just here. We're starting around there at +8, +9. We're going to be seeing those temperatures dropping down into the rest of the week and the weekend. So by the early part of next week, we're barely above freezing with these temperatures until maybe we start to lift things up a little bit then as we go deeper into the second week of February. But certainly for a few days next week, it does look really quite cold indeed, with temperatures from Monday to Wednesday, or maybe Monday to Thursday, really not getting much above freezing across quite a large section of the country. Temperature anomalies then from the 1st to the 9th of February are looking like that, coming out colder than average for the UK, Ireland and much of Western Europe. It's looking like a very significant cold spell now for many northern, central and western parts of Europe, the UK and Ireland included in that, of course. Precipitation anomalies, average to a little bit drier than average. What tends to happen when it turns cold, because the cold air holds less moisture, when it turns cold, you tend to get less precipitation. So often it'll be cold and dry. But bear in mind, what precipitation does fall when it's cold is likely to fall as sleet or snow. So this is how the GFS is looking for Sunday, pulling in those cold, bitterly cold east to northeasterly winds. That continues into Monday as well. We've got a ridge of high pressure over Scandinavia, so the flow, particularly for England and Wales, is gently coming in off the continent. This isn't a long fetch easterly from the Urals, so it's not that kind of Siberian cold flooding across Europe, kind of like 1987 or 1991, but we have got an extensive cold pool sitting over Central Europe, and that's gradually seeping in on those gentle easterly winds through the early part of next week. So those are the upper air temperatures for the early part of next week. We've got the -10 isotherm pushing across England and Wales. That's bitterly cold air. When you get -10, 850 HPA, the temperature by day is going to be struggling to get much above freezing at this time of the year, and it'll probably generate snow showers around eastern coast as well. Bit of a complication for Tuesday as the weather front starts to come in from off the Atlantic. That's coming into that very cold air. It also has quite cold air, or very cold air, behind it. So there's a good chance on Tuesday, but as that front pushes south and eastwards, it might produce some snow. We can see by the end of Tuesday that we've got a weather front more on the eastern side of the country. You see that by the sort of ripples in the isobars, indicated as a front pushing down across the country, and that could be bringing sleet or snow through Tuesday and into Wednesday. There's the upper air temperatures by 6 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday, so we're pulling down the -10 isotherm from the north this time, so not much of an increase in the temperature. Probably what happens is that a band of snow will push south and eastwards through Tuesday, and then very cold air will follow along behind. Through to Thursday, we're still within very cold air, and we're trying to bring another weather front in from off the Atlantic. This one also is having a real struggle. This how things are looking by Friday. You'll see again we've got this kink in the isobars telling us that the weather front, as it's pushing across the country into that cold air, and also has cold air following on behind. As that front is pushing through, it is stalling, and again there could be more snow there Thursday to Friday. So for snow next week, we're focusing on Tuesday, and then possibly another bout on Thursday and Friday. Detail on all of that is to be determined because it's too far away. But not only will it be cold next week, there is a risk of wintry weather as well. Finally, by Saturday 10th of February, the Atlantic is breaking through with a properly milder push of air from the west or the southwest, and that takes us to day 10, which is sunny 11th of February. The Atlantic's broken through, it's turned milder, it's thawing out, and wet and windy up in the north. take a large pinch of salt to that. That's far too far away in this kind of cold and wintry scenario to take seriously. Remember, these models will always try and refer back to the default pattern. They'll always try and get back to westerlies. So I think there has to be a large pinch of salt about that at the moment. The ECM looks like that. So again, we're putting in these cold east or northeasterly winds as we go through Sunday. Bear in mind, there could be something wintry on Saturday, and we will, if I have time, look at that in Snow Watch later on today. By Monday, we're pulling in those east-northeasterly winds again across England and Wales, bringing that cold air into the country from off the continent. Then on Tuesday, a weather front tries to come in from off the Atlantic into that cold air. You'll see what happens from Tuesday to Wednesday. So this is where the low pressure and the front is on Tuesday, out to the west and the northwest. But by midnight on Wednesday, that front and low pressure is down to our south, so it's pushed down in that direction, and that means we're still maintaining the cold air across the country, both from the east and also from the northwest. So that looks like a classic sort of snow event situation Tuesday to Wednesday. There's the upper air temperatures at midnight on Wednesday, but -10. Iceberg still covering much of the country, so still very cold through to the middle of next week. Thursday also looks slack and cold, and then by Friday, again, we're trying to push another system in from the northwest into that cold air. That is in that sort of position. Again, that could be bringing snow through across the country in the second half of next week. Eventually, similar to the GFS, by day 10, the Atlantic re-establishes and we return into a westerly flow, which would be milder. Again, pinch of salt required on that. So it certainly looks like we're in for quite a notably cold spell next week, and also there is opportunities for snow at times. Finally, just have a look at the CFS V2 for the next month. So these are 500 millibar heights broken down into week periods. The first week period taking us from the 1st through to the 7th of February. So the coming week, we have this cold pattern with below average heights over and to the south and east of the country, above average heights up to the northeast and out to the west. So we do something like that with the flow and with the jet stream as well. That looks cold. We're placed onto the cold side of the jet and at times quite unsettled. Week 2, which is the 8th to the 14th of February, the ridge is out there and also up here as well. That's a big blocking feature that we've got up there. And then between them, we've got the below average heights again in that sort of position. We're still on the cold side of the jet stream there, so more cold and wintry conditions to come in week 2, if that's right. Week 3, look at this, goes from the 15th to 21st of February, and again, below average heights centering over and to the south of the east of the country, above average heights in the Atlantic and pulling up to the Arctic. The flow is like that, so again, we're on the cold side of the jet stream. That looks like it could be a really wintry week there. And then week 4 rounds it all off. This is the 22nd, 28th of February. Again, we've got above average heights through the Atlantic and going up to Greenland. Below average height centering to our southeast, and we'd be pulling the air down from that sort of direction. So if this is right, we're looking at a prolonged cold spell. February is looking like being a cold and wintry month. Temperature anomalies for week 1 are coming out colder than average for the UK. Many parts of Europe from the 1st to the 7th of February. Week 2 temperature anomalies are even colder. This is from the 8th through to the 14th of February. So we're significant cold average from the UK. Look how cold it is across most parts of Europe as well. Week 3 also comes out significantly colder than average for the UK and for most of Europe too. This is a very cold February being forecast here by the CFS, if this is right. And then week 4, the 22nd, 28th of February, still colder than average for the UK and the Europe, but a little bit less so compared to those earlier weeks. But nevertheless, we still end February on a colder than average note. If that's right, we're in for our coldest February for many years, and we're in for a substantially colder than average month. But it may be that it's overdoing the cold signal that we've got coming up next week. It's just running away with itself. So I think we need to have a lot of caution about that. We'll know more with JMA Friday tomorrow. This is still showing this scenario, and the JMA is as well. Then we'll be able to take it a little bit more seriously. But at the moment, I think the chances of a very cold February are quite low. But obviously, the possibility is there. And we need to concentrate on next week's weather first of all. So it is looking significantly cold at times through the course of next week. There's going to be wintry weather as well. So expect snow and maybe some disruptive snow at times through the course of next week. And really quite a wintry outlook, I have to say, through the course of next week. Obviously, we'll be keeping you posted at Gav's Weathers in the coming days. And say that later on today, we've got Terry Scolder's February forecast. That'll be with you around 5 o'clock this afternoon, and then this evening I'm hoping to be able to do Snow Watch. So come back for all the updates. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.